5 days, ladies and gentlemen, 5 days until we get to the Raw Rumble. And let's face it, while we do all get excited about WrestleMania and we wave our flags and blow our kazoos, whatever you do when you're all pumped up, really, it's the Raw Rumble we look forward to more than any other WWE event in a calendar year. So we have just had the go-home show for Sunday's pay-per-view, and there's only one question left to ask. Was Raw good? Was it bad? Does it deserve some ups? Or does it deserve some downs? Also, a quick shout out to everybody who has joined me at 2 p.m. GMT time to watch this live. We're doing the whole premiere thing here on YouTube. There's a chat box right over there that you can talk in, and can you believe it? I'm going to be there too, which makes no sense. How can I be here but also be there? It's like we're breaking the fourth wall. Let's up those downs. Raw started with a great tribute video for Martin Luther King. It was powerful, it was inspirational, and it was motivational. Gets a massive up. Then Brock Lesnar's music hit and out came the Universal Champion, who we don't always see, unless of course it is a go-home show for a pay-per-view. So thanks Raw Rumble, much appreciated. Paul Heyman was with him and he just cut one of those promos that puts a smile on my face. Brock Lesnar is the beast, he's the man, and he's gonna pin Finn Balor. Maybe he'll even crap all over him, not literally. That would be disgusting. If nothing else, would absolutely not be PG. Heyman sold the fact that there could be an upset on Sunday because Brock Lesnar's been preparing for Braun Strowman all of this time, and now he's got to switch gears and focus on Finn Balor instead, and that is like chalk and cheese. But ultimately, this is Brock Lesnar, it is the Conqueror, it is the Universal Champion, and he will beat Finn Balor when the Royal Rumble rolls around. Heyman was doing all that. Lesnar was stood behind him, looking ready like he was going to eat somebody, and he probably would have done. I'm pretty sure if you said to Lesnar, your goal here, your angle, is to eat Finn Balor, Lesnar would have said, how much you paying me? If you pay me enough, I'll digest that fool like an orange. The cool bit was, just as Heyman had finished his verbiage, Vince McMahon's music hit, and I ain't going to lie to you, he hasn't been back that long, so there still is a kind of a novelty of seeing the boss interact with the champ and his friend. He does crack me up as well because he turned face to heel on a dime here. He got the usual cheers that Vince McMahon always does when he walks out, but when he started to tell the story of David and Goliath, and that's how he was pitching Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, Vince McMahon said, we all remember how the story went, Goliath came out, he whooped David's ass, and that was the end of the fable. He also said the only reason the fans in Oklahoma City on this night believe Finn Balor can win is because they're from Hillbilly Land. Let's not pretend otherwise. Vince is meant to be a bad guy. However, I will say this was basically McMahon just ripping on Finn for the entire time. So if now he does go to the Royal Rumble and he just loses, which he probably will, well, what was the point of that? And I know, I just called it the Royal Ramble. Maybe they'll change it up and maybe it will just become a competition where you have to talk loads. The whole thing then started to get messy after a strong start because Braun Strowman came out and said that last week was the worst week of his life because it cost him $100,000 and Baron Corbin is an asshole. And then Finn Balor joined the party and he was like, oh, same old, everybody ripping on me, poor old Finn Balor, where's my lollipop? Strowman and Balor yelled at each other, Paul Heyman and Lesnar then just vanished as if they were Batman, so Vince McMahon made the match of Braun Strowman against Finn Balor, and I think by the end of this it was just, it just muddied too much in the waters, we'd gone off rails, therefore it's got to get it down. We then segued straight into Balor versus Strowman, and while one thing made absolutely no sense and was a giant plot hole, it was mostly entertaining enough. Getting up. Basically, while Balor and Braun fought, Brock was on the outside, and at one point he grabbed Finn and just belly-to-bellied him over his head. And what did the ref do? Absolutely nothing. But later on, when Lesnar F5'd his opponent in a few days, the ref then decided, oh wait, no, actually, I believe this should be a disqualification. You are terrible at your job, my friend. Absolute terrible. Balor did win because of that, but what we should focus on is that when Finn was getting some momentum up on the beast, he gave him a flip dive and some other stuff, Brock sold for him like crazy, and that should give you hope, that should give you some faith, because remember what Lesnar did against AJ Styles, remember what Lesnar did against Daniel Bryan. I'm alright to have another match like that. They always are brilliant. Did all of this make me want to see that Universal title match anymore though? The answer is no. Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush celebrated their Intercontinental title win from last week next, And I know I shouldn't have enjoyed this. I know I'm an idiot, but I did. Now, I don't get why Bobby Lashley can't just be booked like a killer. I mean, he already looks that way, so just allow him to act like it, and no one is gonna think otherwise. The man, he's just a crazy monster. But here we had a ceremony where Rush just shouted out poses, and Bobby stood on a plinth, and he did said poses. But look, I love bodybuilding. Corey Graves even mentioned Ronnie Coleman. That was all I needed to get a kick out of it. And I know nobody else will have enjoyed this, but what do you want from me? I love the gym. I'm a damn fool. It got even more nuts because when Apollo Crews came out to confront the new IC champ, he started doing poses with Bobby Lashley as well. And yeah, nobody tunes into Raw to see this stuff. I mean, they did it with Rick Rude and Ultimate Warrior way back when in the Royal Rumble, and Triple H and Scott Steiner did it. But here's a little shocking piece of news for you. I like those as well, because just like bodybuilding, somebody come and slap me in the face. I did it. I will say that given how happy Lashley was 7 days ago to win the gold, we probably could have just focused on that instead of him doing the old double bicep pose. They did eventually scrap and Lashley got the win after he had speared Crews out of his boots, but of course the only reason this happened is because Lio Rush was providing the distraction. However, Lashley, he had won the IC Championship and now he's getting some momentum up, and as for Apollo, well, I don't know where that leaves him. The rumor mill keeps saying, WWE is going to push Apollo Crews. And if this is a push, it's not a very good one. WWE then did that new badass thing they seem to enjoy, where before Lashley had even left the ring, Seth Rollins' music hit, and as they passed each other, they stared each other down. Now, I kind of didn't get that one, because last week they were fighting, and they hated each other, so I don't know why they wouldn't have started brawling here. And also, by the time Rollins got to his promo, well, that kind of sucked too. So unfortunately, Seth Rollins, very rarely, you getting a down. Seth was sad because a couple of months ago he had 2 brothers and 2 titles, and now he's got none. And also, he's not the stereotypical WWE wrestler. And he actually gave the names of Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. And maybe I think that's going to come home to roost at some point. He called wrestling and the ring his first love, which has absolutely got to be a slap in the face towards his parents. And then for some reason went on to say he's from a small town, and if it wasn't for this sport, he could be a truck driver or work in a factory. Well, what's wrong with that, Seth Rollins? Some people may want to work in a factory. They may want to drive a truck. You can't crap all over them. What a strange thing to say. Not cool, man. Not cool. And the point of all of this is that, of course, on Sunday, he's gonna win the Royal Rumble, or at least he's going to try. Drew eventually arrived to say that all this was nonsense because his name was on this year's Rumble, and that made me laugh, because I hope that he meant literally. Imagine that he comes out and it just says Drew McIntyre on the ring. You're gonna be pretty confident. And it also made it 3 for 3 in the hole. Guy comes out to cut promo, gets interrupted during his promo, then the 2 people that caused all this have a match. Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. The match itself, though, was brilliant. Not only were the fans super behind Rollins, but amazingly, he won. He pulled a scoreball out of nowhere, especially because it looked like McIntyre had all the momentum in the world. That's quite a big deal too, because Drew, he don't lose that much. All of a sudden I started to think that, oh no, this means that Seth Rollins isn't going to win the Royal Rumble because he got, the big push here, which is like the trick. It means when you get to Sunday, the guy that lost, which would be Drew McIntyre, maybe he going to win the Rumble instead. I don't know, nobody knows. Also, a quick mention of Rollins going for a dive, Drew McIntyre stepping out the way, and Seth just crashing into the barricade. That must have hurt like anything. And also another shout out, because these 2 people, as you know, are just really good pro wrestlers. Sorry too, but I like what was next. What are you gonna do? It's kind of fun straight away, because if you are a nerd like me, as soon as you saw the Revival talking to Vince McMahon, your brain would have gone, oh my gosh, there's been rumors all week long that the Revival actually did go to Vince McMahon in real life and ask for their release. And now that's happening in the world of kayfabe too. In storyline, they wanted one last title shot because they kind of felt like they'd been screwed over the last few weeks. And at the very same time, Kurt Hawkins was over here and he was saying to Vince McMahon, please put me in the Rumble. Then McMahon saw the bigger vision. He pushed his hands together. We are going to get the Revival versus Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. And your special guest referee is Kurt Hawkins. If you watch Ups and Downs, you know I love Kurt Hawkins. There's my justification for the up. Biased. Revival didn't like that at first, but as soon as they realized this could be their ticket for success, they all became the best of friends. And I like it when people are friends, it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. Dean Ambrose promo followed and it was damn awesome, but my word, does that guy need to win the Royal Rumble? And he's not going to. but up. Just his usual delivery that we all enjoy, and he said he's going to get his revenge on Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins by chucking them out of the Royal Rumble, and reminded us that in 2018 he had a pretty crappy year, and he did. Apparently he almost died. It would be really great if he could take all of this and actually go and win on Sunday, but I haven't even heard anyone use his name in the prediction sense, so how the hell is he going to win the whole thing? Which begs the question, what are WWE doing with Dean Ambrose right now? Lucha House Party then defeated Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers in around about 3 minutes. Somebody say 3 minutes? Nope, because it's not Raw circa 2005. Also, I don't know, what do you want me to say about it? It almost feels like we should just start chatting about something else. Some trivia maybe. I mean, who else was WWE champion around about 18 months ago and then was coming out on Raw and just having random, crazy, out of no way 6-man tag matches that they lose? I'm obviously referring to Jinder Mahal here, but if you know of anybody else, use that comment box below. And yeah, Grand Metalik, he hit a backbreaker onto Sunil Singh, and it almost looked like they botched the finish. It was kind of really lackluster, and the commentary team were like, oh, what happened? You are going to watch Raw later, skip this. EC3 then posed in a mirror as Dana Brooke asked him questions about how he maintained his physique. And now, look, I get it. I've seen the arguments. I understand the counterpoint to this. At least they're slowly building up Ethan Carter III, and he's got more momentum than, say, an Apollo Crews, who just arrived on a post-WrestleMania of Raw and then proceeded to do absolutely nothing. However, it's also making him look like a giant geek, especially because he never speaks. Why isn't he allowed to speak? Down. Another down too, because Elias came out, did his usual sing-song, then Baron Corbin interrupted him and beat him in a match with the End of Days, as if Elias was just a piece of gum on the street. WWE tried to pretend that Baron Corbin had hit him with a cheap shot on the neck, but that did not come across. Getting a down. Also, Michael Cole actually said on commentary, boy, this feud's been going on for months. Yes, it has. We then went 3 for 3 when talking about the Moment of Bliss talk show segments. It's getting a down. The basic idea was Alexa Bliss was selling who's going to be in the Women's Rumble. She had graphics on the screen. Then she invited Nia Jax out, said to Jax, who are you going to face if you win the Rumble? And just as she was about to answer, Ember Moon arrived. And then Mickie James arrived. And then Alexa Fox arrived. And the Riot Squad arrived. And before long, most of the women you can think of the Raw roster had arrived, and they had taken over this thing. Even though Alexa told them to calm down, they all started brawling and eventually fought their way to the backstage area. And all I'm ever going to say when WWE does stuff like this is, would they do this when it came to the guys? No, they would not. They were treated like squabbling school children, but at least when we come back to Alexa Bliss, she made a pretty damn good announcement that yes, she too is going to be in the Royal Rumble. And the crowd popped really nice for that because it's been a while. That can never know. We also got to hear Lacey Evans say some words. She came out, she called everybody else gutter trash because she's like a Southern belle. And yeah, there's something in this gimmick, there's something in this character. I quite like it. We'll have to wait and see. She in the Rumble too. Titus O'Neil then did a backstage promo in a really dark room, by the way, where he put his name forward for the pay-per-view and then got mad at a stagehand that interrupted him. And that was it. It was so strange that it was almost as if production pushed play on the wrong video, but it was too late because it was already going. Because of this bizarreness, it's going to get an up. I was so baffled. Amazingly, Heavy Machinery are going to get an up too. Pulled that one out their ass, didn't they? Up. But having them absolutely tear the Ascension to pieces was absolutely the right move. They're going to come up to the main roster with some fire. They got to get some wins, and I will say this, didn't really like what Otis has been doing over the last week, but here, he was over with the fans, everybody loved him, and I was smiling too, especially after he did his caterpillar thing and he smashed an elbow into whoever was in the ring at the time. It was either Connor or Victor. They basically blend into one. Heavy Machinery then won after the Compactor, which as we know is a really cool move. And yet again, this worked. They looked like a really good in cahoots tag team and we needed that. What can I say? They got me. The tag team title match was up next and you know what? Getting an up too. We all know I'm biased because Kurt Hawkins swayed me, but I like the narrative here. Both Bobby Roode and Chad Gable and the Revival kept doing things that were not on board, but Kurt Hawkins, he was the ultimate ref. He even employed the rule of you ain't having a tag, man, unless you're holding onto the tag rope. It was like it was 1987 all over again. He wouldn't allow any pins when people had their feet on the ropes either. He was taking view of everything, and that eventually came back to bite Dash and Dawson in the behind, because after Hawkins had gone in there and said, look guys, calm it down, Chad Gable hit the surprise roll-up from nowhere, And yes, the champs retained their titles. As you can imagine, Dash and Dawson were really pissed about that, so they then focused on Hawkins and started beating him up. But do you know who came out and made the save? That's right, Repo Man. No, it wasn't Repo Man. If that had happened, I wouldn't be here right now, because I'd be over there crying with joy. But it was Zack Ryder, and it certainly looks like now WWE are going to re-team Ryder and Hawkins back up on the main roster. And as I've been saying for ages, the more tag teams we can have, the better. Thank you, All Elite Wrestling. Also, all of this ticked my boxes, and that is not a euphemism. Ronda Rousey was backstage ranting about Sasha Banks, and she actually said, "What does she want me to do? Cut off all my hair so we can use it to wash her feet." What? Those words actually came out of Ronda's mouth, and really, where the hell did they come from? Also, is that why I don't have any hair? Was I asleep one night and someone came in and cut it all off and then used it to wash their feet? Because that doesn't make me a very happy man. Despite being nuts, credit to Ronda, because the way she delivered all this was like she was legitimately pissed off. And half the time, that's all you gotta do. It doesn't actually matter what you say, but if you say it with rage and you say it with passion, I can buy into it. So crazy Ronda Rousey promo? Getting up. The main event of Sasha Banks and Bayley taking on Natalya and Ronda Rousey, well, that can get an up too. I thought it built the whole Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey title match on Sunday really well. I really did. Hashtag really. Sasha went ballistic on the microphone beforehand at Ronda, saying, "You just waltzed into this company at the Royal Rumble a year ago, whereas I have to work for everything I get, including being in that match in 2018 for 54 minutes. And even though Ronda was on the apron, as soon as that match started, Banks made a beeline for her, clocked her right in the face. Man, that made a good noise. From here, it was all about trying to remind you how devastating the Banks statement can be, including getting the win here by making Natalya tap out, which also means technically, Ronda Rousey just lost her first match in WWE. Obviously, that's a pile of crap. Raw then went off air with the champion and the challenger yelling at each other, and again, this looked pretty legit. If you were just flicking through channels and you wanted to believe two people hated each other, that's all we got. Sasha will lose this because of course she will, and a longer build would have been nice, but overall, not too shabby at all. Although saying that, in terms of go-home shows for the Royal Rumble, this was probably one of the weaker ones. I mean, really, they didn't focus on the Rumble at all, apart from that segment with the women for that Royal Rumble. And again, that was like children who just been told, you're not allowed to be playing Xbox anymore. It's over. The Xbox is out the window, and they all start scrapping and scrawling and doing whatever you would do. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's Raw. Like, share, and subscribe. Head on over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles. Go and follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and why not spend the rest of your day watching more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thank you very much for watching. And again, if you're watching this later and you are free at 2 p.m. GMT tomorrow, why not stop by and watch Ups and Downs live? Kinda. You'll think it's live. There'll be people again in this chat over here going, woohoo, Simon, you bald idiot. And you'll love it. I promise. I'll see you soon.